To the huge development Bardstown and the family of Crystal Rogers have been waiting to see for years. The man who was long ago named the chief suspect in her disappearance is now in jail for this case. Brooks Houck is charged with murder and tampering with physical evidence in the death of Crystal Rogers. This is the mugshot taken by the Hardin County Jail today. Our team's been in Nelson County all day. Isaiah Kim Martinez is talking to residents. But first, Shay McAllister is right outside the Nelson County Courthouse. And Shay, the judge put one huge bond on Houck. We don't often see that kind of bond in cases around here.
Doug, you're certainly right. We're talking $10 million cash. That, of course, came after this big arrest, which we're told happened at a work site where Brooks Houck, who does construction, was working on building a new house. He was arrested by Kentucky State Police and special agents with the FBI first thing this morning. He was first taken over to the Nelson County Jail, where he took two mugshots, one in a T-shirt, one in an orange jumpsuit. He was then transferred over to the Hardin County Detention Center. That is where he's at right now. And take a look at that mugshot. You can see that orange jumpsuit. So many people in this community, so many people in the Bardstown, the Ballard family tell me they have just been waiting for this shot. Okay, so you're taking a look at the mugshot. He is facing two charges. These are state charges. First is murder. The second is tampering with physical evidence. The three things we want you to know about this arrest right now: he is facing one of each of those charges. He is facing one count of murder. He is facing one count of tampering with physical evidence. Nelson County judge placed Houck under a $10 million cash bond. And as you know, he has been the main suspect since 2015. The former Nelson County sheriff saying that 8 years ago. But until today, no arrest. Today, Sherry Ballard was here at the Nelson County Courthouse, focused not only on Brooks Houck, but on her grandson.
Finally, his face is not smug. He knows he's been caught.
It's an arrest that has everyone's attention. Brooks Houck, Crystal Rogers' boyfriend, and the main suspect in her disappearance, charged with her murder and tampering with physical evidence. According to the indictment, the charges stem from an incident July 4th weekend of 2015, just days before Crystal's car was found abandoned on the side of the Bluegrass Parkway with her keys, phone, and purse inside. He was named the main suspect within 3 months, but never charged until today.
It's just a miracle that this has happened, and finally he's where he needs to be and where he's supposed to be, and he needs to stay there.
Federal investigators accuse Houck of intentionally causing the death of Crystal Rogers and destroying, concealing, mutilating, or removing physical evidence in connection to the crime. He was arrested without incident early Wednesday morning while on a job site outside of Bardstown. We've been able to confirm this was the moment Brooks was put into handcuffs. He has since been booked into multiple jails, taking 3 different mugshots, 2 in orange jumpsuits.
My first reaction was just Sherry and her family getting the justice that they have fought so much for and never let up. Her faith has just been inspiring to everyone, and to get those answers, it gave me chills, for her.
While news of the arrest spread fast, Sherry Ballard, Crystal's mom, has been focused on something else, something she's been fighting for since the day her daughter disappeared. She wants custody of Eli, Crystal's son with Brooks. He was just a toddler when his mom went missing. We talked to Sherry about the custody battle 2 years ago, after Sherry lost all visitation rights and had no communication with the little boy.
One day, that baby is going to be old enough to come and see me. And he's going to know everything I have done to fight for him.
Today, that fight continued with a petition for emergency custody, according to someone close to the case. We're told it was denied for now, but a hearing later this week could change that. As for Eli's dad, he is currently in the Hardin County Detention Center on a $10 million bond. The first big movement we saw in the Crystal Rogers case in 8 years came just 3 weeks ago with the arrest of Joseph Lawson. He was indicted by a grand jury just earlier this month on September the 7th by a Nelson County grand jury. He is facing 2 charges: conspiracy to commit murder and tampering with physical evidence. He has already been arraigned on those charges. He pleaded not guilty to both of them. A judge is holding him on a $500,000 bond, and he is expected back in court at the end of the month on October 26. Lawson was the first arrest in connection to the Crystal Rogers case, but Brooks Houck arrest is the biggest development we have seen in 8 years. This investigation has had such a hold not only on this community, but on the Kentuckiana community. And there have been developments over the years. There have been searches. There have been interviews. There have been big announcements made, nothing quite like this. But Brooke Hash takes a look at the timeline over the last 8 years.
Crystal was last seen alive on July 3rd of 2015. At the time, the Nelson County Sheriff's Office was handling the case. Brooks Houck told police the couple had fed cows at the family farm and then went home together. He says the next morning she was gone. 4 months later, the sheriff at the time announced Crystal was presumed dead.
She has vanished.
And declared Houck the main suspect.
No comment. Thank you. Y'all have a good day.
The FBI took over Crystal's case 5 years later. They'd spend the next 2 years searching several properties from the home of Brooks' brother, former Bardstown police officer Nick Houck, and the family farm. That brings us to June 21st of this year, when a grand jury indicted 32-year-old Joseph Lawson on 2 charges: conspiracy to commit murder and tampering with physical evidence. His attorney confirmed it was in connection to the Crystal Rogers case. And finally, the arrest of Brooks Houck Wednesday morning. Now charged with murder and tampering with evidence on a $10 million cash bond.
Well, while the Crystal Rogers case is certainly a huge case in this community, right here in Bardstown, there are 3 other unsolved cases that investigators tell us they are currently and actively following leads and tips, hoping to find some answers. You'll remember most of these names. The first was May of 2013. Bardstown police officer Jason Ellis was ambushed and killed on the way home from work. That happened at 2 in the morning. And then the next year, 2014, Kathy and Samantha Netherland were found murdered in their home on Springfield Road right here in Bardstown. Kathy was a special education teacher. Her daughter, Samantha, just 16 years old. Crystal's father, Tommy Ballard, was heavily involved in finding out what had happened to his daughter, leading multiple searches, working the case every single day. And in 2016, 16 months after Crystal disappeared, Tommy was fatally shot in Bardstown while preparing to take his son hunting on his own property. Well, we have asked the big question that so many of you ask us, and that is, are these cases connected? Investigators have never officially linked all of the cases, but when I interviewed the FBI back in 2020, I was told that one arrest in one case could lead to other arrests in other cases. And just a few weeks ago, when I talked to the family of Jason Ellis, they told me they agree.
It's hard to not go there though too, because there seem to be similar people connected to each case. There's some momentum happening in other cases. We're kind of getting that boost again to feel a little more confident that time could be coming for answers.
And a reminder, the Jason Ellis case was taken up by the FBI. They are offering a $50,000 reward for any information. You can always call and report tips there. I did check in with the FBI today. They tell me they are still working that case, and Doug, they are taking tips on all of the others.
So Shay, right now the indictment on Brooks Houck is sealed. You know, you just talked about the possibility that this one arrest could connect some of these other cases. Should we expect that indictment's going to be a real bombshell once it's opened up and we learn everything in it?
Well, Doug, we have had our eyes on the indictments that don't include probable cause, the indictments that just give us the counts. And the most compelling piece of information that comes from that is that all of these charges are connected back to an incident on July 3rd or July 4th of 2015. Of course, that is the weekend that Crystal Rogers was reported missing. The piece of information that could really hold the clues, that break the case wide open and fill in the gaps, would be that probable cause affidavit. Of course, it is very, very likely that we don't see that they keep that under lock and seal until this case heads to court.
Okay, Shay, thank you very much. And of course, his arraignment's going to come up pretty quickly next Thursday. We'll be covering that. Thank you, Shay. Well, also reaction is pouring in about this major arrest. Team Crystal took to Facebook this morning to post a statement that reads in part, Brooks Houck was named the #1 suspect in Crystal's case in 2015. Continue to pray that justice is served and we bring Crystal home. Well, right now, Isaiah Kim Martinez and our senior photojournalist Alyssa Newton are in downtown Bardstown live. Isaiah, you are right in the place that has certainly prayed the most for the longest time about this case. What are folks in Nelson County saying tonight?
Well, Doug, they've been very honest with both Alyssa and I about this whole situation, saying that there's still a long road ahead in this legal process. Of course, that arraignment set for next month, but they also admit that for right now, knowing that the primary suspect in this case is behind bars means everything to them.
I got a text for some people in town.
The news resonating with the Bardstown community, the arrest of Brooks Houck.
Just thrilled. Thank goodness, finally some justice. Get him locked up.
Each of Houck's 3 mugshots Wednesday seen and shared quickly across social media.
Everybody was just left in this gray area, and that gray area has color now that Brooks Houck is behind bars.
Houck, charged with complicity to murder and tampering with physical evidence, now sits in Hardin County detention after being transferred from Nelson County. Marks, who's lived in Bardstown for the majority of her life, has watched the case closely for years. Her boss broke the news to her Wednesday.
Relief. It almost feels like a metaphorical weight has just been lifted.
For the locals in this quaint town, the last 8 years have been agonizing. The heartache, the search, the wait for answers, the signs. The hope that each new search would bring an answer, better yet, an arrest. Now, the community has seen 2 in a span of 3 weeks. And for Marks, knowing Houck isn't driving around town,
everybody in this town knows what his truck looks like.
And walking amongst this community is a relief.
To being that close to evil was just a very sinister feeling.
And as Houck's case works its way through the justice system,
hopefully this will lead to more arrests in that, or maybe being able to find out what happened in those other murders.
The prayer now is that further answers reveal themselves as a result. Now, we also talked to the former Bardstown mayor and current Nelson County historian about all this. For her perspective, she gave some thoughts about the timeline between Houck's arrest as well as that of Joseph Lawson just a few weeks ago. That is coming up right here at 6. Doug.
Well, Isaiah, let's talk about the day here for Brooks Houck so far. He was arrested this morning and then was in the Nelson County Jail, then was last in the Hardin County Jail where we saw that last mugshot. What have you learned about his movements around there in that part of Kentucky right now?
Well, Doug, there was some thought that Houck would potentially be transferred over to Grayson County, a high security facility. I'm told by a high-ranking official in Grayson County that part of the thinking here could be that given the fact that Lawson is already there, they do not want both people in that same space. Of course, Hardin County also is right near here in Bardstown as well. Doug.
Okay, Isaiah, thank you very much. Well, earlier today, Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear gave his thoughts on this arrest, saying he's grateful for Kentucky State Police and all of their hard work.
Well, it's good to see progress in the case, and I hope it continues to give the family the belief that we will get this case solved and that they will get justice for their daughter. The Kentucky State Police, working with others, have worked hard. They have never given up. They have worked this case over and over, trying to find new leads and new evidence. And so today I'm grateful for all of those law enforcement agencies for their work.
Our reporting on this story goes back to that July day in 2015, and you can watch our coverage on WHAS 11 Plus, available on Roku, Amazon TV, and Apple streaming services.